Hello, welcome to another episode of This, That, and the Other. This is the second part of Courtesies, Customs, and Protocol, Part 2, from the magazine Welcome Okasan of August of 1971. Being a good neighbor is the very cornerstone upon which customs of the service are built. Dress down before sunset, dress up after. Anytime, no shorts or informal slacks to the PX, commissary, or downtown, no gum chewing or curlers in public. Coffee, tailored clothes, coffees, that women would have coffees and would just meet and drink coffee and talk. Tailored clothes, no hat necessary unless requested to wear one. Luncheon, suits, dresses, hat, optional, and gloves. These are rules for women going to different socials. Teas, dress your suits and dresses, hat optional, and gloves. Cocktails, dressy suits, dresses, gloves. Dinners, unusually dressy or cocktail dresses. Formal dinners and dances, short or long formals, but in certain functions, only a long formal. Formal receptions. This means that protocol will be followed, not necessarily that formal dress is required. The time of day will determine the dress. Parades always wear a hat and gloves. Hostessing at a club, no hat but dress according to occasion. Sunday brunch at club, hat optional, attire suitable for church services. Gloves are appropriate at any time of the day or evening. A lady does not remove her gloves when shaking hands, but never fails to remove them when smoking, eating, or drinking. A good rule to remember on gloves: always neither or both. The following terms are used to describe the desired dress for various social activities at Fort Buckner. That was a Army base near Kashaba housing. They had like the PX, the Buckner Theater, at a skating rink. The I believe it was called the Tiki or the Outrigger. One of the two were on Fort Buckner. The other one was on Kadena Air Base. The following terms are used to describe a desired dress for various social functions at Fort Buckner. Formal, officers, blue or white mess jacket, blue or white blue or white uniform with bow tie, civilians, tuxedo, ladies, formal evening gown. Informal, officers, business suit. The army green uniform with blouse is acceptable, but a business suit is preferable unless the uniform is prescribed. Sport coat with shirt and tie and trousers of matching or contrasting colors may be worn if the function starts before 1800 hours. For those functions commencing after 1800 hours, a business suit is preferable. However, if it includes dinner or buffet, a business suit is indicated. So that's basically the men over there with civilians, same as above. Ladies, cocktail or dinner dresses. Casual or sports clothes. Officers, they wear a sport coat, shirt and tie with trousers of a matching or contrasting color. A longer short sleeve shirt with tie is acceptable. Civilians, same as above. Ladies, simple dress of broadcloth, cotton or silk. Home entertaining, alcoholic beverages. If you do not care for alcoholic beverages, you do not need to serve them, though you may wish to have them on hand for those who do, just as they can usually serve you something non-alcoholic in their homes if you do not care for a cocktail. The obligations. In accepting invitations, one acquires obligations. It is not necessary to repay a dinner with a dinner, a luncheon with a luncheon, etc. Your manner of entertaining should fit your budget and circumstances. As a junior officer, a cocktail party may repay all your obligations for a year, or you may prefer to have small groups for hamburgers or barbecue. Official dinners, receptions, etc. do not entail a return obligation. Pouring. Informal coffees and teas are excellent ways of extending your hospitality. Never ask the guest of honor to pour, although it is an honor to be asked to pour as one of the guests. Senior officers' wives should be asked to pour first at unit or section affairs. At an informal neighborhood gathering, you may like to ask a special friend to pour for you. Proceedings. Recent custom is that coffee takes precedence over tea. Therefore, the first senior lady would pour coffee, the next tea, seating guests. It is the prerogative of the hostess to seat guests in whatever manner she chooses. It is well to try to avoid seating married couples together in order to promote acquaintance and conversation. Serving guests. It is courtesy to ask the commanding officer and his wife to precede other guests through the line at a buffet supper, unless there are guests of honor. Thank you notes, a note, or a telephone call the next day saying what a good time you had is a cordial gesture. A note is preferable, as your hostess is probably busy with after-the-party chores and may not have time for answering the phone. But a phone call is the natural thing to do when you have been entertained by intimate friends at a small affair. Unit entertaining. Live social functions. Teas, luncheons, coffees are usually in divisions, regiments, and battalions, and on posts. These are usually monthly get-togethers for the purpose of welcoming, saying goodbye, and for getting better acquainted. If the units were small, you would probably want to entertain each of the ladies in your home. Since most units are large, that is impractical. You should be willing to take your turn at making arrangements for these affairs and should attend whenever possible. Inviting guests at least once a year. Senior officers' wives from other units should be extended an invitation to these events. At all times when there are senior officers' wives and other guests present, you should consider yourself a hostess and personally extend your greetings and hospitality to the guests. Couple social functions. Dinner dances or cocktail parties are frequently sponsored by units to serve the same purpose for couples that the above functions do not do for wives. Your attendance is encouraged. Courtesies to commanding officer, senior guests. At parties, large or small, be sure to find and speak to your host and hostess when you arrive and again when you leave. You and your husband should never fail to make it a point to speak to the commanding officer and unit commander and their wives and guests. Do not sit down to dinner until those at the head table are seated. Be sure your husband dances with the hostess and other ladies at the party or table. Do not leave the party before the ranking officer and his lady. However, if you must do so, go to the officer and his wife and explain. Don't try ducking out the side door. No one has gotten away with it yet. Official functions. An invitation to an official function requests your presence and participation. You are expected to mingle, to speak to senior officers and their wives, as well as to honored guests, to be sociable and congenial, not to just be there. Invitations may be issued in the following ways. By telephone, ask for the wife and issue the invitation through her. Use your first name on the phone, Mary Jones, not Mrs. Jones, but this does not mean you could call her Jane. It is better not to use the first name of an older or senior officer's wife unless she asks you to do so. Handwritten note, addressed it to the husband and wife. Informal card, addressed it to the husband and wife. Calling card in envelope, address it to the husband and wife. Fill-in card, address it to the husband and wife. Engraved invitation, address it to husband and wife. Be sure your invitation answers these questions. Who is host? Where is the party? What is the date and time of the party? Type of dress and telephone number or address for RSVP or regrets. On replying to invitations, formal invitations, and there are a few nowadays other than for weddings, are answered by a handwritten note in the third person with the same wording and style as the invitation. Written acceptance of an invitation is over your signature, not yours and your husband's. You may wish to say my husband and I, but the note is signed by you. The official invitation should usually state a RSVP phone number and should be answered as soon as possible. RSVP on an invitation demands a reply. The thoughtful guest responds within 24 hours, as the hostess may wish to include someone else if you are unable to attend. Even though RSVP may not be included on luncheon and dinner invitations, it is understood that a reply is requested. Reservations for various club functions are, in a sense, accepted invitation. Should you find that you're unable to attend, your reservation must be canceled before the deadline. Otherwise, you will be expected to pay. A personal invitation constitutes an obligation whether you accept or decline. By the same token, an extended invitation cancels an obligation whether accepted or declined. Always accept an invitation enthusiastically. Refuse regretfully. It is not necessary to go into detail. Receptions are given in the Army from time to time to honor distinguished guests, visitors, to greet large numbers of people, and for various other reasons. Often, as with the traditional commander's New Year's reception and receptions held at the beginning of the service school year, they will take place. They will take the place of the call on the commanding officer and his return call. You should be ready to leave your cards at these receptions if there is if there's a table or tray. So that concludes part 2 of this. I'm going to this next show will be part 3, and that will conclude everything on this. And kind of interesting what the rules were back then. Like I said, I don't know how similar they are now in Army military functions. And a couple of interviews are on the horizon. Like I said, I've only done one, but I've got a couple on the horizon. Hopefully these will happen. And as always, like, subscribe, share. Looking for a partner, looking for a producer. As always, thanks for watching.